So there's some juicy rumors going around that the Stop Killing Games campaign has died, and this movement for consumer rights in the context of video games is now hopeless. And much like a couple rumors spread by some high school ex-boyfriends, these rumors are highly over-exaggerated and pissing me off. Stop Killing Games is not dead. Stop saying it is. It's making you look stupid, and it's helping anyone who's working against consumer rights. Even just on YouTube, you've got video titles that make it appear to be over, or in deep trouble at least, or not as dead as it seems, which implies it is kinda dead. You've got ambiguous titles that will be guided by people's mood, so they could go either way, and you've got a few people desperately trying to set the record straight. That SKG is not dead. So if you don't know, SKG is a consumer rights movement where they're trying to legislate that video game companies cannot sell their customers a video game and then destroy it and actively prevent its users, its owners, from playing it in the future. It's not about forcing companies to maintain upkeep and support forever. It's about telling video game companies to stop designing games to be completely unplayable after their support for them ends. It's not about ensuring a company makes a chair that lasts forever, that they will service forever. It's about making sure companies aren't putting detonators in their chairs and then preventing you from making them usable after they blow up. This whole issue goes into consumer rights, ownership rights, right to repair, planned obsolescence. It might be in a video game context, but conceptually, this is a much bigger conversation. So there's several goals, there's several moving pieces, both in the US and the EU. One thing Stop Killing Games was trying to do was introduce new legislation, brand new laws. That is what they've been denied. The other thing they were trying to do, and they're still trying to do it, is amend existing legislation. And that's a much bigger chunk of the process, and it's more likely to succeed. Here's the Stop Killing Games founder, Ross Scott, talking about it in his own words.
A decision from the EU Commission is coming up soon for the European Citizens Initiative on June 16th. Now, seeing as how most of the attention of the campaign has been on the initiative, you might think, this is it. This is what will determine if we can solve the problem of publishers destroying games or not. But no, it's really not. Now, we're not trying to write off the EU Commission. We'd be happy for their support. But based on all the circumstantial evidence and who they're talking to the most, you can understand why we think it could be that article from almost a year ago was right all along. And all we'll see is a non-binding communication and nothing changes. But I said earlier, the Commission's decision doesn't really matter. Why is that? Well, if the Commission decides something needs to be done, great. They can introduce legislation at EU Parliament. Normally, that's a necessary step, since EU Parliament, ironically, cannot introduce legislation, only amend it. But it just so happens there is existing legislation, the Digital Fairness Act, which coincidentally is an ideal fit for our issue. It's for digital issues with insufficient enforcement, legal uncertainty, risk of regulatory fragmentation across member states, and lack of incentives for businesses to aim for a higher standard. That describes our issue of game destruction all over. Plus, it already targets other aspects of video games. It fits like a glove. And amending that is exactly what's set to happen. And collectively, we have majority support on this issue. This means we're in a position to pass legislation on this, even without the Commission's blessing. So the message from all this is don't be discouraged by what the Commission decides on the 16th. It is no longer the deciding factor in this. The EU legislation should be going through either way. Really, for the trajectory we're on, everything seems to be on course to go through in the EU and in California. I'm almost waiting for the other shoe to drop, because right now, our position almost seems too good to be true. I mean, we've been busting our asses on this. I think what we're asking for are really bare bones, common sense protections. I'm just not used to things going well.
So they were told by the EU that they can't have new laws. Fine. The existing laws are already there, and I have a hunch a lot of politicians know how to highlight and press the backspace button. I hear some of them even know how to write new words in, although that might just be another rumor. But for some reason, and this is the entire reason for my video, you have these internet commentators who have been supporting the movement acting like this is the end of the world. They're creating this cumulative effect as if SKG is dead or suffered some severe loss that it can't recover from.
The movement has failed. I really can't believe that's something I need to say out loud, but it's true to a degree. But is it really over? Has the battle been lost? Let's get into it and see what happened, what's next, and everything else. It's a lot. First, from TechSpot, it's confirmed that SKG has lost its biggest battle yet against the European Union when it comes to actually passing its consumer protection laws. The majority of the people involved unanimously just said no, and they have won this phase of the battle, so to speak, which means all the meetings that SKG had in European Parliament were for the most part sort of a show, unbeknownst to us, the parties involved, had kind of already decided the outcome a long time ago. They already knew they were never going to listen to us or give us what we wanted, which shows that this was rigged from the start. The fact that 1 million plus people signed this and consumer advocacy groups got involved, yet it didn't work, that kind of tells you everything. These people, they never wanted us to have our freedoms to begin with, and it shows. And they hate that we ever tried to make this work in the first place. SKG, however, did post, here it is, that the fight is actually not over. There's still hope. So I know this video may at first come off as discouraging, but please know, that's not the point of me making this video.
It's not your point to be discouraging, but your title and your opening statement are literally framing it as SKG has been lost. I'm sure you've heard this before, but get your head out of your ass, Endymion. You know they didn't lose. You mention it multiple times later on in your video, but you still undermine the entire campaign. This is some of the worst possible PR for something like SKG to have. When it comes to a big movement like this, your title matters more than your content. The first minute of your video is more important than anything else in there. This is true for any goal-oriented endeavor where you need people. Why? Because I see a lot of your viewers who didn't watch your entire video talking like SKG is done for now. The morale has shifted significantly, and a lot of people are referencing videos like this.
The movement has failed. I really can't believe that's something I need to say out loud, and they hate that we ever tried to make this work in the first place.
It's a lot harder to get soldiers to fight a battle that they don't think is going on anymore. Do I need to bring out the sword again? When your average person hears something they cared about has been stopped by government leaders and CEOs, they don't turn up, they turn off. They feel the disappointment, they think about the futility of it all, and any learned helplessness that's embedded itself in their outlook gets reinforced. And if you haven't fucking noticed, hopelessness is not exactly in short supply these days. There has been this overwhelming loss of morale in so many areas of society. Rossmann put out a new video talking about all this, and even his channel is adding to the misinterpretation of what has happened.
If you look at Europe as the pinnacle of everything here will go right, we will always have perfect consumer rights. Our legislators will always make sense. You are setting yourself up for a massive, disappointing fucking failure when it doesn't go the way that you wanted. And the problem with that line of thinking is that you're not going to try again. You need to try again. My point is we all have our problems. And we can't make this utopia out in our head to be that there is this one mecca of consumer protection where everything just magically goes the way that you want. Because it's not true. We all have our bullshit. I don't want people to lose the game and then let it get to their head because they thought they were playing on easy mode. You're not. You're trying to change the law in a group of over 20 countries. That's not going to be easy. You're not going to get it on the first try.
People setting themselves up for massive disappointing fucking failure? When you fail, get back up? You're not playing on easy mode? You're not going to get it on the first try? Like, don't get me wrong. This is good advice. This is good messaging. But this sounds like you fucking lost. This sounds like SKG is dead. This sounds way worse than it is.
So the message from all this is don't be discouraged by what the commission decides on the 16th. It is no longer the deciding factor in this. Really, for the trajectory we're on, everything seems to be on course to go through in the EU and in California.
I like trying again. I'm not going to do the exact same thing in the exact same way if it fails over and over again. But I will come at it from different angles. Your job at this point, when you fail, is to reframe things so that when you win, but when you lose, you still win.
I've got my suspicions Lewis is a vampire, and him being this over-dramatic compared to Ross is really supporting my hypothesis. But on another level, he also set himself up for failure and then shot himself in the foot because one of his previous videos literally said that if the ESA decision didn't go through, then SKG would in fact be dead. This is what comes up when you type in "Stop Killing Games is Dead" and Rossmann on YouTube. You should know better. You know what people are going to do with this. You've had like 300 years to learn about human behavior, and you make it this easy for people to come to the wrong conclusion? You know full well people aren't going to notice the difference between the American Entertainment Software Association and the European Commission. You said if one thing happened, then SKG would be dead, and now a completely different thing has happened and a bunch of people think SKG is dead. Just assume if there's 2 or more acronyms involved in something, then most people are not going to realize the difference between A and B. Most people are suffering from information overload. Hardly anyone can keep 2 different governmental departments straight anymore. Especially not 2 in different countries. And they both have an E in them. Confusion's inevitable. And then you've got all the doom and gloom videos of people talking about how shitty the overall situation is. So you've got major content creators who are all depressed talking about how bad things are going to be if SKG loses. And it all compounds upon itself and creates this illusion that something major has happened, that SKG has suffered some significant defeat that they'll never recover from. According to Ross, that's not how he sees it. Time will tell if this is a much bigger blow to the campaign than what most people realize, but as it stands right now, apparently it's not. And I don't know what kind of meetings SKG is having behind the scenes, but ever since some guy who worked at Blizzard offered his 2 cents on the matter, it's become really obvious that they need to be clear and precise in their public messaging. A lot of people support this movement. A lot of people are doing what they can, for the most part, talking and making videos about it. And one of the most important factors is the impression content creators are making online. This is the delicate psychology underpinning any sort of mass social movement. I've already seen people online talking as if they've lost hope, lost interest, because now they think it's just another failed campaign that's not going to go anywhere. Morale can be so easily lost. It happens incredibly quick. I got confused because I was seeing people saying SKG was dead when I knew just enough to question it and be like, this shouldn't be happening, at least not yet. And they need to be careful right now because this is how a movement dies. It loses hope, it loses attention, it loses vigilance. When it comes to how people are talking about this, how they're titling things, how they're presenting the most easily accessible information, 1 second of reading a headline is more valuable than an hour of nuance. Why? Because most people can't pay attention for an hour these days, and if you feed them a depressing title, a lot of those people are not going to look further. How SKG deals with all these assumptions floating around now is going to determine the morale of the movement going forward. And luckily, there are people who are putting out videos and talking about this and trying to clear things up. But this was a mistake that really didn't need to happen in the first place. And it could have repercussions going forward if it's not addressed. If you've never come across this discussion before or not taken an interest in it, then welcome to the fold. This is a big conversation. It's about consumer rights and companies' responsibilities to their customers when they take their money. Even if you don't give a shit about video games, you should be paying attention to this conversation. And now that you know Stop Killing Games isn't dead, you can look deeper and get involved if you want. And if you think the video game conversation's boring, just wait till it's your fully digitized chair that self-detonates every 6 months so you have to keep buying new ones. Or risk fines and imprisonment for trying to somehow make it work. I'll put a bunch of links in the description. Go have fun. It'll be the Stop Killing Games website and its Twitter, a link to Louis Rossmann's videos, and a link to Ross Scott's YouTube channel, Accursed Farms. And anything else I decide is interesting or worthwhile. So best of luck to Stop Killing Games, which is in fact alive, and hopefully all this confusion online just drives up engagement and makes it even more popular and well-known than it already is. See you around.